Hello everyone, and welcome. Today we'll be playing the new character Bullet with a combination of electric and light tactics. And then I think we're going to go for a Transcendence 80. I'm not entirely sure if I can beat Susano, but with the build I'm going, I should probably be strong enough to do it, as long as I don't do anything too bad during my gameplay. We're going to be starting with Jin and Lambda, and then on Jin I have it set up for Skill Lightning and Lightning Orb, and then for Lambda I have Attack Light Wave and Light Wave Spread. The Lightning Orb isn't too big of a deal here, since it doesn't trigger if the enemy gets killed shortly after the impulse applies or goes off. So we're mostly going to be one-shotting normal enemies, and that's not going to show up much, but it will be a factor in boss fights later on in the build. And then I'm running Attack Light Wave and Light Wave Spread on Lambda. Light Wave Spread isn't necessarily required, but there is a lot that it does throughout the run. And you need to inherit it if you're going the same build, because you're not able to take Chain Lightning during the run, and Light Wave Spread requires Chain Lightning to get in the first place. You don't actually need to have the secondary tactic, like in this case it's Chain Lightning. You don't actually need to have it for the red tactic to be active if you inherit it this way. So that's why I'm able to have two red tactics activated right from the start, while having two separate tactics. We can pick up this right away, which is one thing I can show off during this run. And it's one of the reasons why you might want to have Light Wave Spread. I'll go into that more when it comes up. Otherwise, Light Wave Spread is pretty generally useful throughout the rooms. You can see at the beginning of the room there, when I triggered it, it was able to hit, like, the entire group of enemies in front of me. It makes it hit significantly farther than it would normally. But you don't really need to worry about room clearing too much, surprisingly, on Bullet, which is not what I was expecting. The reason why I took Skill Lightning Impulse, I really like running this anytime I play Bullet, no matter what build I'm going, unless I specifically need the skill slot for something else. Because mostly the way that Bullet works is that when you press the skill button, you'll grab and throw an enemy. If they're grounded, you'll throw them forward like I just did there. And then if you're in the air, you'll grab them and throw them diagonally downwards. You deal a bunch of damage to the enemy you throw, and then any enemy that it passes through will also take damage. One thing I want to try and get for sure before the first boss fight is the middle upgrade here for Universal Enhancement. When hitting a grab immune enemy performs an explosion attack, that gives her a way to consistently damage bosses, even when they can't be grabbed. And some bosses can be grabbed at certain times, some bosses can't be grabbed at all, so it just depends on the individual boss. Looking for the up attack and then also the upgrade for it is also just a generally good thing to look out for. Having the invincibility on the up attack itself is nice, and then it will be used for hidden effects that give her all of her grab moves full invulnerability. Her grab moves don't have immunity frames by default. You have to get them through hidden effects. But luckily, Bullet is not too bad in that regards, of having to get specific hidden effects and having to pay attention to them. Bullet in general is very simple compared to the previous DLC characters we've gotten, Rachel and Hazama, both in gameplay execution and how easy it is to understand the character. Unlike Hazama, who bombards you with some little bit more awkward inputs to do sometimes, like with some of the chain inputs and that type of thing, and then who's hard to understand because of all the stuff hidden behind hidden effects. Bullet is, like, basically the complete opposite. All of her potentials are very straightforward, and her execution isn't really that difficult either. And then on top of that, she's also just very powerful. Some people have been saying they wonder if she'll get nerfed. Personally, I don't think she's that overpowered that she needs to be nerfed. My opinion might be a little different than other people's, though, because I've put 1,000 hours into this game and found out how to break the game in many, many ways with every single character. So I don't think Bullet is that egregious compared to other characters, if you know what you're doing. But one thing that makes her very strong, and why I understand people like to say she's overpowered and maybe would have nerfs, is that the barrier of entry for Bullet is very low. Why my grab just... maybe my grab did go off there, but it didn't give me enough height to get away from Sweeper's grab. That's what I was trying to do. But the Sweeper grab hitboxes have some really, really janky hitboxes. There have been many times where I've been like way above, or even way above and slightly behind, and they will still grab. I can't remember if I mentioned it yet, but Lightning Impulse on the skill slot is one of my favorite things to use with Bullet, because any enemy you throw is probably going to die in the first place, and then it's like they basically become a bomb that damages other enemies thanks to the impulse debuff. And then on top of that, any enemy that gets hit by that enemy, that first enemy as a projectile, also gets the lightning impulse debuff, and then will then also explode. So you can see, like, you can watch right here again. When I throw through a group of enemies, every single enemy ends up exploding into that impulse debuff, and then if any enemy barely survives, or even sometimes another set of enemies will spawn in and instantly die that way, the impulses just give her already really strong room clearing even more power, without really being too detrimental for boss fights, since she has very high damage for boss fights. We could take this... So you need this up plus skill, and then you need the invincibility for it, and then you also need the invincibility potential for up plus attack. That's how you get the two hidden effects you see here. All throwing skills gain invincibility. Either, at first it's just until grabbing, and then the second one gives it invincibility for the full duration, which is crazy because it ends up being where she can get invincibility basically permanently if you play correctly. And then here's the potential that would give you that. I'm gonna pick up this because it's a very important part of her boss damage. It makes it so even if the boss can't be grabbed, you still do decent damage to it with your grab moves. Because her grounded combo moves and other combo moves, from what I've seen, really don't do effective damage. It's her grabs that are going to be doing a majority of the work for you. I would have liked to get one more potential, that way I could either get my invincibility or get triple dash before the first boss, but that's fine, I guess. I also would have preferred to be able to get some tactics for lightning dash instead of maybe the lightning orbs, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal either way. So you can see here as I attack this boss that even though I'm not able to do the actual grab and throw moves, I'm still... You get quite a lot of damage hits off of this. So honestly, maybe she could even stack something like Frost Burst with it. But I don't know how effective Frost Burst would be overall. I mean, honestly, like, Frost itself is so good just as a damage modifier that it doesn't really matter if Frost Burst is activating that much. But I think I'd still prefer the lightning impulses just because of how crazy and how cool looking the normal room clearing gets with it. Her skill is really low MP cost too, by the way. So if you want to and you don't really have other options early game, as long as you have the additional attacks thing, you can just spam it like this, and you shouldn't really have too much of an issue with boss damage. Her boss damage is going to get a big boost through another one of her potentials, though. So we can go into this for the invincibility. And I think... yeah, that's what I'll do since it's here already. There are two things that I want to make sure I have before the next boss, but I think I still have plenty of time to get them. We'll see what Covenant gives us. Well, I'm definitely not taking any of these. A lot of times the obligation doesn't feel good enough for what you're getting outside of a few Covenants, in my opinion. And even on the really good Covenants, sometimes the obligation is just too bad to take. If I wasn't playing a new character, I would probably consider taking this one, but I want to show off the light build with her. That way other people can see how it works too. Even though this light build isn't anything new, like I said, I've done very similar build to this before. Except usually I don't have lightning impulse in the skill slot. That's something I put in more for bullet. Now this room is going to be a little painful without having triple dash, but I think it won't be too big of a deal. I am actually getting a decent amount of the lightning orbs from the red tactics stacked up. Those things are really... what's the word for it? They're very inconsistent on normal enemy rooms. When an enemy is inflicted with lightning, a lightning orb is generated that tracks the enemy. That's why you saw all those extra orbs flying around. When I apply skill impulse to them, it makes those orbs. But the problem is it seems to be on a delay when the orb will get created compared to when the debuff is put on them. So a lot of times, like here, you'll see I just put the debuff on like 4 different enemies, but one of them still spawned one somehow, which is weird. Like that enemy I put a debuff on, it doesn't spawn. That enemy didn't just outright die in a one-shot, so that's why it spawned one. But basically, if you kill enemies too quick, then they don't spawn a lot of times. It makes them feel very inconsistent. I don't know if that's something that... we'll check throughout the run. They seemed a little bit more consistent than I thought before, but then at the same time, I just cleared a bunch of enemies there, and none of them spawned one, so that might have just been... they spawned one time, but not the other. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it has to do with them dying too quickly, but I don't know for positive on that. So for Lightwave, there's a couple options. If you want to go into using the Lightwave itself more often, you want to get the flexible charging. But if you just want the tactics and your 1 burst damage to do more, you go for Lightwave. You can either go for Upgrade or Stun. Stun has a little bit higher damage. Upgrade will give better room clearing, though. I think we'll go for Upgrade. I have plenty of rerolls, but I'm being stingy with them for now. Just in case I really need to get to something like triple dash before the next boss fight. So for other tactics, I'm trying to get it set up with Legacy Light Spears, Dash Lightning, or Dash Thunderbolt, I guess it's called, and then Orating Lightning Orbs. What this is going to eventually do is create a big chain reaction sequence where you see the floating lightning orbs that are flying around me, and also even the ones that fly around the stage that get created from the other red tactic I showed. What's going to happen is that all of these lightning orbs will summon a thunderbolt when they hit something. And then when the thunderbolt hits something, it's going to spawn a light spear. And then when the light spear hits something, it's going to spawn a light wave. So basically, every single Thunderbolt that hits every single enemy is going to set a big chain reaction of 3 different hits going off simultaneously. Or, not quite simultaneously, but pretty close to it. Whoops. That's a new one. I don't think I've ran into that problem too often. The recoil from my heavy attack actually pushed me a little bit back into the spikes. I talked about it earlier, but you can see it here. Whenever I try to stop to just, like, do basic attacks on enemies and combo them, my killing speed just completely tanks compared to if I throw an enemy once, it kills, like, all the enemies that are on screen, at least that get hit by the throw. Which I wouldn't mind if they maybe slightly nerfed the base damage of the grabs and then put more damage into when it has more potentials. But I don't think they just need to, like, straight up nerf her base damage and not give her anything in return. The grabs and the throwing stuff does also look a little bit stronger, just due to me having lightning impulses. They make sure that anything that doesn't get killed by the actual throw itself is going to get killed by the debuff, or the lightning impulses, I mean. But even when I wasn't using this, a lot of my throws were just still either clearing things out on their own or getting them close to dead. And then we want to make sure we pick up Dodge Thunderbolt with this build. Because like I mentioned before, what's going to eventually happen is that every time a Thunderbolt hits something, it's going to set off my other tactics. Wow, we're already at the next boss fight. Well, after this shop is what I mean. And then a lot of times I've liked to take Holy Light Spear, but they changed something with how light wave damage calculation works. So what we'll be going for is... I can't show it here. I think I can show it this way. We're going to be going for Light Spear, Light Wave. That way, Light Spears can activate like Light Wave. And it says now that the damage is calculated based on the damage that Light Spear does. This wasn't always the case, but it's been a change that's been around for a bit now. So I used to go for Light Spear, or Holy Light Spear, just to add in another damage source. Now I go for Light Spear Upgrade, because it not only makes the Light Spear deal more damage, but makes the Light Wave deal more damage too. I don't think I need to take Chance Stun. I have a way better debuff than Stunning, and that's making the enemy not able to do anything at all, because they're not alive anymore. I should have, since I have Light Wave, and I have the charged version of Heavy Attack, what I should be doing when I enter the fight for the first time is using a fully charged Heavy Attack while the Light Wave's up. Like, I can do it here, and then I honestly didn't even see how much damage that did. It's decent damage in Transcendence difficulty with the amount of HP that enemies get. It's nothing that considerable on boss HP bars, but on regular difficulties and lower settings especially, that burst damage from Light Wave will be a lot more noticeable. I'll also be able to heavily buff the damage that Light Wave is doing later on in the run, assuming I get the potential I need for it. Now, the boss damage is still a little bit low there. It's by no means bad, especially for a Transcendence difficulty boss, but I'm still really lacking the tool that gives a lot of her damage. I will take the invincibility, though. I'm not necessarily getting bad rolls, it's just I'm getting more of my invincibility tools and my utility stuff instead of getting the damage tools right now. Which is fine. Normally I've been doing it kind of the opposite way, but that's just how the luck's been going this time. Normally I've just been going for DPS right away, and then getting the invincibility for the harder boss fights. I don't mind running this debuff too much, but I also don't really know how useful it is. And we'll take it. It'll give some stuff like fast kill MP recovery, which will be helpful. It'll give some stuff like MP cost. It'll give stuff like speedrun reward and no damage reward for extra exchange points. Speaking of fast kill MP recovery, that might be something you want to make sure you start out with. If you're having trouble keeping up with the MP cost of spamming her grab moves during the normal stages, what I've done is I've taken Lambda as a legacy character. And what Lambda's passive is that when an enemy gets thrown to the ground at enough speed, they will give you MP back. And then what I've been doing this whole time with that is that when I throw an enemy from the air, like right there, it will trigger Lambda's passive and give a bunch of MP back. So as long as you have Lambda passive or something like fast kill, I really dislike when this happens on that stage. But as long as you have something like fast kill MP recovery from starting buffs or the buff shop or Lambda's passive, you really shouldn't have any problems with keeping up in MP gain, even if you only use the skill throws throughout the stage. And you can see too that now that Lightwave is fully upgraded, even if I were to run out of MP or something for my skill, when Lightwave does go off, it will just pretty much one-shot everything on screen. Lightwave spread helps a lot with that. It's actually not doing quite as much damage as I expected it to. Part of it is that they have extra HP right now, so it's harder to one-shot them than usual. And then also, I'm just hitting them with a basic attack. I'm not doing like a charged up attack or anything for it. So it's the light wave itself isn't getting much damage scaling. Now I think we're at the point where we just hard reroll into triple dash we still really need. And then also, it does not want me to show off the mechanic. What is this luck? Picking this wouldn't be bad either. It's a pretty useful tool for boss fights and in general. Okay, here we go. So one of Bullet's unique mechanics is that she has a buff called Afterburner or Heated Up State, where it enhances certain attacks. She also has a Pursuit mechanic, which we don't have yet, so that's not going to be important. But anyways, this will also create a grabbable for you. So I said before that in boss fights, a lot of bosses can't be grabbed, and this is basically the solution to that. If you want to do one of your actual grab moves, but you can't grab the boss, you summon one of these, and then you throw it. This also gives you a source of having a projectile at any point. So right here, I don't need to jump down into that group of enemies and risk being in range of things like Afterlife Bomb and all their attacks and that type of thing. I can just summon a thing and throw it at them. Or even, you can do it on the ground as well, obviously. It's just a very useful tool to have for her. The Pursuit mechanic is stuff like this upgrade, where all of her throw skills will have a Pursuit input you can do afterwards. I might as well just show it off. So I'll just do the up throw like normal, that's what it looks like. And then if you press the following input, you can kind of dash to them again, and then do an additional grab attack. The Pursuit moves are pretty good, especially when they're enhanced. I don't tend to use them as much until later in the game. I really want to get the other... I still need triple dash too. Having triple dashed at this stage of the game is weird. I want the middle buff here, While in heated up state, fire attacks inflict burn, dealing continuous damage over time. The burning effect can stack. And then that stacking burn is where a lot of boss damage is going to come from. Which might be surprising if you've ever tried to use anything like... if you've tried to use anything like the burning mechanic from the fire tree, or even stuff like rend, or poison, all of the damage over time tactics in this game are not good at all when it comes to high entropy stuff and high difficulty stuff. But finally we have a good one in the form of bullets fire stacking. Also, I think it seems like things are just either the tooltip is wrong or the move itself is bugged. It tells you that you can burn things when you're in the heated up state, but you can burn them even outside of it. So you don't actually need to be in that state to apply the burning. Like, let me look again just to make sure, but while in the heated up state, fire attacks inflict burn is definitely what that says, but that's not how it works. It's also very... I forgot what the word for it is. It's very strange what moves they consider burning attacks. Like, this second hit of my basic combo, you can see it's burning enemies. So they consider that to be a burning attack for the purposes of that potential. Is my heavy attack a burn attack? No. Why? I don't know. I'm pretty sure even there's another version of the heavy attack where you fire an actual flaming projectile that hits enemies a couple times. And I think even that's not considered a burn, somehow. It's very strange. Okay, so I need to be a little bit careful here. I don't want to take Seeker Thunderbolt, and I don't want to take Lightning, or Light Spear Thunderbolt, because those conflict with slots that I need for the build. I want specifically Lightning Orb Thunderbolt. Upon hitting an enemy, Lightning Orb summon Thunderbolts, dealing damage. And now from here, I think all we need are light stages. Let me check just to make sure. When your Thunderbolt hits an enemy, spawn a light sphere. That's the one you want. You have to be very careful if you're running this build, because there's Thunderbolt Light Spear, where Thunderbolt can spawn Light Spears, and then there's Light Spear Thunderbolt, where it does the complete opposite. And you want to make sure you get this one and not the other one. What? I don't know what was happening there. I don't know how it was reading up plus dash with my inputs there. It's definitely not what I was pressing. So in case I forget to mention it later, I've been saying a couple things about running Light Wave with her heavy attacks and them getting better later on. And then also, I don't remember if I mentioned it in this take yet, but Light Wave Spread will also be more effective if you're doing this. What you want to do with Attack Light Wave and then Light Wave Spread is you want to get 3 of these down. I think 3 is the cap. Yeah, 3 is the cap. You want to stack 3 of them together, and then you want to heavy attack backwards away from them, and then turn towards them and do your heavy attack. That will increase the damage that heavy attack is dealing, because these actually take damage and count towards light waves damage, and then when you hit multiple enemies at once, all of that damage gets added together before it goes to light wave. And then on top of that, light wave spread will also create a brand new instance of light wave for each of the targets hit. So when you're hitting 3 targets there, you're not only increasing the damage you deal for light wave's damage calculation, but you're also hitting whatever is behind them with multiple light waves at the same time. It's very powerful. The downside being that you have to wait for the long cooldown of light wave, and you have to make sure you get it set up properly where the boss doesn't... The boss has to be behind them for light wave spread to work properly. So we can pick up the other part of the the heavy attack that I was talking about. Let's check this out. Why is that not considered a burn is beyond me. It literally says you're launching flames forward that cover the ground. But my heavy attack is now considered a burn because of the hidden effect here. After charging, fires a high-speed bullet that explodes. I mean, I guess the bullet explodes, so you could say that is what applies the burn, but it is very, very strange how random some of the things that are considered burns or aren't considered burns. So it's just something you have to kind of figure out on your own. I think I will go ahead and take it. That way I have another way of applying burn with the heavy attacks. Let me check something real quick again. Okay, so I do actually need to... I was hoping I could just quick charge and only charge it for the minimal amount of time and still get the burn. But it looks like that you do actually have to charge for a certain amount of time in order to get the burn damage off, which might make it not worth it. But I think I'll get it anyways. We're down to 5 rerolls now, so even though I had like 14 of them earlier, once you start trying to hard reroll for a specific thing, those go by fast. I don't have triple dash yet. What is this run? Hopefully I can get another potential out of this shop. Otherwise, the next boss fight is going to be very sketchy. And then here we pick up Light Spear, Light Wave. And then I think we're just missing one more piece of the puzzle before the tactics build gets completely broken. I think I have enough money for both of these. Unless I'm bad at math, which I am, but I don't think I'm that bad at math. Now watch me be wrong. So please give me triple dash key. Okay, we finally got it. I've legitimately had some 100 entropy runs where I'm at like the last boss before Alpha Sector and I still don't have triple dash. It's very painful when that happens. And now we should be able to pick up... We want to make sure we don't get Seeker Thunderbolt. We want to make sure we get... not Light Spear Thunderbolt either. I'm gonna run out of... Oh, I can't get it yet, actually. I need one more Light Spear. I thought I was done with them. That's not a huge deal. It's obviously like a very blatant waste of the rest of my rerolls, but I'm good at this point. I don't need to reroll any more potentials, and the tactics build will be done with the next red I get, so not a huge deal that either way. Let's see if we can do this. I don't know if the light waves... Okay, they did reach out. You can see that's a pretty good 100,000 damage chunk, somewhere around there. Which isn't awful, especially by the standards of what non-transcendence is going to throw at you. That's going to deal like a very considerable chunk of the boss's HP. Transcendence bosses are just huge HP sponges, pretty much. They do have new attacks that make them more difficult, but the amount of HP that, especially the later bosses in the run get compared to their normal version counterparts is just, it's really insane. This will help be in heated up state, I guess, which I used to think was really important to keep stacking the burn effect, but apparently the burn effect just works even if I'm not in heat up, so maybe this isn't as important as I used to think it was. It does enhance pursuit attacks, though, which I'll maybe get at some point. I don't have any refreshes. I'll get it. I don't really care about those other moves too much. There is still one of the grabs that I would probably like to pick up. I think it's on... Is it on dash? Yes, it's dash plus skill. Dash and grab and target in front of you. And then you get this big jump move and you slam down. It's one of the better moves if you need an invulnerability frame or you need an air to ground for some reason. It's one of the things you saw me doing a lot if you saw my fight against Transcendent Susano that I posted. Oh, we could... So there's been a Chinese video that was posted about... It's the same build basically as I've been using with Lightwave and then Lightwave Spread. And then what they did is they put this on top of it and stacked as much exchange points. And they were one-shotting the 200k bosses from normal mode. Which, it's cool that stuff like that works, and I do find it funny to do the one-shot builds, but the problem with that is that people will... They just see the one-shot without understanding that a lot of additional things go into it, and they miss the fact that they have like a very high damage modifier from special effects. Special effects being stuff like black markets or T-show, that type of thing. It's also true to some extent with when I posted a guide a while back about One Punch Hakumen, it's the same type of thing. It is a very strong build, just in general, but the One Punch Hakumen thing to, like, actually set up full one-shots relies heavily on Mind Crystal effects that boost your damage far higher than you would normally have, unless you're at, like, max kill streak and max kill streak and max combo count, or you're abusing stuff like the black market buffs that can give you damage stacking that way. Alright, so finally we have the full build put together. If you want to run a version of this that is a lot better early game, you could run something like Orbiting Lightning Orbs with Dash Thunderbolt, or Orbiting Lightning Orbs with Lightning Orb Thunderbolt, I mean, and then on the other character you would run Dash Thunderbolt and Thunderbolt Light Spear. That will allow you to have a big part of the chain reaction done immediately, and it'll give you a lot of automatic damage. The only problem with that is you can't pick up Lightwave Spread unless you switch. You can take either Skill Chain Lightning, or you can take Chain Lightning on this. Even though the Thundercloud is, it's more like a summon, it still counts as Chain Lightning in terms of red tactics. So you can take it here and then put the Light Spears on the skill slot. Either way, those would be interchangeable. That's how I think I normally run the build without inheriting Lightwave Spread. That way I can get into, like I said, the orbs, which spawn Thunder on their own. Oh wait, I messed up how I said it. So you would want to take Orbiting Lightning Orb with Lightning Orb Thunderbolt. No, I said it right. This red tactic really confuses me, and I hate that they did this. They should not have called a red tactic the exact same... by the way, if you've never seen this build, this is just how the game looks for the rest of the game now. I mentioned it before, but I'll go back over it again. This specific set of red tactics makes it where every time one of my Lightning Orb touches an enemy, it spawns a Thunderbolt. The Thunderbolt then spawns a Light Spear, and then the Light Spear then spawns a Light Wave. It's a very big chain reaction effect. And then since I have both Light Wave Spread and the extra size on the Light Waves, they're just really big as an AoE range to begin with. And then they will also jump to enemies. So if the Light Wave hits one enemy and there's a certain other enemy behind it in range, but out of range of the first Light Wave, basically, it's weird to explain, and it's very hard to see because of how fast the Light Waves are. Just imagine that... So, you know how Chain Lightning works normally. It's basically that same property, just on your Light Waves. But I also think there's more to it. I'm honestly not... This is not a tactic I messed around too much until just recently. So... I know there's also something weird with it duplicating the Light Waves if you hit multiple stacked enemies. I don't know exactly how that works if the enemies are, like, really far spread out. But it does have some weird properties of being able to duplicate Light Waves on stacked groups of enemies. That is something I did test earlier today, and I know it works. I just don't know how it works when they're more spread out. This whole chain reaction setup is probably the strongest thing in the entire game in terms of tactics. There are maybe one or two other tactic builds that come close to it, just in terms of raw DPS, but this build has extremely high DPS while also having the wave clearing too, which is what the other build that does really high DPS lacks. It has very, very low... it has very low attack range to compensate. Meanwhile, this build just literally does everything. And it's also fully automatic once you get it put together. The downsides of it getting put together so late also... In this run, I didn't get the build put together for a long time, but that had to do a lot with the starting tactics that I took, and not the build having to be that delayed. If I wasn't having to go for, like, full tactics into lightning impulses, or even just starting with the lightning impulses is what delayed this a lot. But I think it was worth it, personally. Like I said, I personally really like using the lightning impulses on her. Which I guess, honestly, you could make the argument that if the tactics are doing this much AoE damage, you don't even need the impulses anymore, which I would agree with. So it's up to you if you want to run this build as well. You can skip the whole impulses if you want to get into the chain reaction itself faster. So I can go ahead and show it off now. This is kind of what's considered like her pursuit system. Like I said before, all of her grabs have it. I think I might have showed it off earlier with one of the other grabs, but it's way more apparent here. You can grab and throw an enemy, you can press the skill button again, and then you teleport to it. These pursuit attacks will also have invulnerability if you have the potentials needed for it, are the hidden effects. The same ones that make your grabs invincible also make these fully invincible. So it's a long time that you're in invincibility state between doing the actual grab and then doing the follow-up attack. I've never really felt too much of a use for this specific thing, especially since I'm running impulses, which are making the grabs do AoE damage, but they kind of already do AoE damage by default, so I don't feel like this one's too important. Can go ahead and grab this as well. One of the things I think is interesting about Bullet, I just haven't gotten used to actually using it yet, is that her grab moves, at least in the aerial versions of them, can be used both as a movement tool and an actual attack. You can whiff the move on purpose to use it for movement, which is something that we will probably actually see if non-Firebite is the boss that shows up. I should be grabbing... Oh, I have 350 NP. When did that happen? I don't remember getting a lot of NP this run, but I guess I did. We won't see it. You can get up to where non-Firebite is by spamming the up plus skill, if you have enough MP for it. By the way, check that out. I took one of the upgrades for Thunderbolts earlier. That makes it where when I dash, I spawn a bunch of Thunderbolts. And then each of those Thunderbolts also triggers the whole chain reaction setup we've got going. By the way, I'm pretty sure you get invulnerability frames even if you whiff the grab. So, what I was doing right there is, during Ori's undodgeable butterfly things, I was just whiffing the grab to go through them. I don't think I was taking damage there, but correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. Here we go. This is one of my favorite moves in terms of just how it looks. Wait, is this the right? Oh, it's, the one I'm thinking of you need a hidden effect for. This is just the base version of it. This, I don't understand, like, this is just the same thing as doing the up plus skill input? Almost. I guess it's slightly different, but they're basically the same thing functionally. So I'm not a big fan of how similar these two inputs are. The one I like is the hidden effect here. You need dash attack and you hold skill. We'll see if we can pick it up before the end. I don't know how many more potentials we'll be getting though. What is the hidden effect for it? We don't have that many things left. Wait, that's not what I need. So I need the dash skill itself, and then... Oh, I need the other hold skill thing. That makes sense. And we'll go ahead and pick it up then. I can tell you guys now that I'm definitely not going into Transcendence Recce. I'm definitely not brave enough to do that just randomly. Oh yeah, another way that you can get throwable objects is through this universal enhancement. I haven't found too many moves that actually generate them, but some of them do. Like here you can see the air throw generated a small projectile here. These projectiles will also count towards if you're doing like light wave spread shenanigans with this type of thing. But they're a lot harder to set up for that. Also, all of these spawnables things can also take certain things like they can get the Shadow Mark debuff, which is interesting. I didn't find it too extremely helpful, but it is something that exists if you want to run a Shadow Mark build. There's also something else I need to check. But I can't, if I need to see my tactics, so I can't go into the training rooms here. I guess we'll grab SP skill. I don't know if I'll remember to use it or not. It's a very good SP skill if you are able to hit a grabbable target. Otherwise, it falls off a lot in effectiveness. We don't have triple jump yet. That will definitely be very helpful for the Susano fight. Just being able to basically negate multi-hit moves when you're in the air makes his one of his attacks a lot less threatening. I should probably pick up a little bit of HP as well. I think if I go into the event, then a boss fight is guaranteed to show up. And maybe we'll do 1 or 2 boss fights, and then go into Susano. I don't think I have that dash move that I want yet. This is Elevator Non. Elevator Non on Transcendence is a way different beast than normal one is. She still has pretty low HP, so if you have a good build or a good setup going, she's not that bad. But the problem for melee characters in particular is that she can really just wall you out once she gets going later on. It looks like here we're just gonna kill her fast enough that that's not gonna be a problem though. But she can really get to the point of where she just has constant coverage from her projectiles. And it can make melee characters very difficult to attack with, especially if you don't know how to abuse invincibility frames. So another mechanic that she has is that not only does she have pursuit attacks, but she just has a whole dedicated button that can automatically teleport to enemies. So if you don't want to use the pursuit mechanics, you can use this. It eventually gets long enough that it goes basically full screen, and you can do a lot of neat stuff with it, but I don't really find it too necessary. It's fun to use, but it's not anything too important in my opinion. It is another way of getting into heat up, which is nice. I might honestly pick it up just for that reason. What else do we have here? I don't really tend to use the pursuit attacks on A+ skills, so I don't really care about that. And I don't think I care about this too much, so let's get the lock on. I'm worried about going into Susano without having the extra move that I'm used to using. I didn't pick it up somewhere, did I? Oh, that's not what I meant to do, but that's fine. I was going in here anyways. Oh, I did pick it up somewhere along the way. Okay, well, we're fine then. We're in go mode for Susano. Ideally, I perfect clear this to get some HP back, and then I don't have to worry about buying HP from the shop, but we'll see. Oh, that... I almost just screwed myself over there. Luckily, dodge frames and Jin passive exists. At this point, I can... Sometimes it's hard to even get to the enemies, and because the tactics set is so ridiculous. Like I said before, I could even just stop playing in normal rooms entirely and let this DPS. I could even stop playing in boss fights. Not necessarily in Transcendence difficulty, but in normal difficulty this can definitely solo DPS down bosses. It's just a ridiculously powerful build. Am I really not gonna get... Oh, never mind, I got what I needed. I keep forgetting that I had already got that. By the end of the run, especially on a new character like this, it can get a little confusing which potentials you have and don't have. Do I want this? This is a fun tool to use, but it also just might straight up get me killed. You can either use it... wait, why is there a specific grounded... I guess if you use it on the grounded version, it just gives you a small jump. But really, I like it for the aerial movement. Ah, right, I mentioned this before, but I didn't get to really show it off. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. If I press my grab moves while I'm airborne, I can use them as movement tools, even though they're not hitting, which can sometimes be useful. It's not something I really am conscientious about using yet. You can get infinite air height this way, though. If you want to just stay in the air, you can spam the up plus skill. It is going to cost a lot of MP over time, but it is infinite air time, which will allow you to go up and hit non-fire bite when she's in her laser phase. She's not actually off-screen, she's just really high up in the air. So if you can manage to get enough height, you can actually go up there and... You can even stun her and knock her out of the phase if you deal enough damage. Alright, now we're good to go for Susano. We'll see... Nope. I was gonna probably do this if it was any other boss. I'm not doing that horrible monstrosity of a boss on Transcendence. Normal runs, I won't enjoy it, but I will run it, but Transcendence, I just said nope. I think they did eventually fix it, but I have PTSD of... they had to, like, change it, so... So Floating Mind has the, like, constant laser beam attacks, where if you're standing in them, they do very high hit count very quickly. And then with the buffs that bosses get to their damage on Transcendence, that thing would just completely delete you, even if you were in it for just like a single second. It made that boss that was already quite a nightmare to fight so much worse than he already was. Because, like, normally he's a difficult boss to dodge, but there is still a lot of margin for error, because if you only get clipped by the lasers for a second, then they don't do much damage. Transcendence was just, you get touched for even just barely a second, and you're going to take a big chunk of damage. Here, catch. Thank you. And we're already on to phase 3. So if you watched my fight with her that I posted or if you watched my fight with Transcend and Susano that I posted yesterday, you'll know that the fight was significantly longer than this. And that's partially because I was somewhat playing for more style points and to show off the character itself. With this build, the tactics are doing so much DPS on their own that I wouldn't use this just as a basis of how strong Bullet herself is. I said it before, but she is a very, very powerful character. Don't get me wrong there. Well, that's just how it goes sometimes. Those moves, if you don't get into the right, like, rhythm with them, they can really shut you down quickly like that. That should have been a one boss fight. If I was probably paying more attention instead of running my mouth, then I think it would have been a one run, but it's no big deal. Hey guys, there was a couple of things I wanted to show off that didn't get talked about a whole lot during the run, or I just didn't have a chance to really set up properly. So I tried doing this live, but it was taking a while to get this actually set up properly because my tactics keep knocking the... You'll even see it here, that I'm trying to get it set up where light wave spread, I'll hit all 3 of these, and then the light wave spread will bounce to the enemy behind it, because it's creating an additional light wave for each of the things I hit here, and then like all 3 of those light waves in this case are going back and hitting him. That's how you set up this thing. And then you also get additional damage from hitting... The damage that light wave itself deals is based on how much damage of the hit that sets it off, and when you hit multiple targets like this at the same time, it adds the damage together from all of those targets. So not only are you getting a damage boost to Lightwave itself, but Lightwave's also spreading multiple times instead of just hitting once. And you can see that you get a really big chunk of burst damage if you get everything set up properly. That's the major thing, is just actually getting it set up properly during a real boss fight. And then if you're facing, like, this is the HP that some of the later bosses would have outside of Transcendence, it's actually basically half their health bar. It's not something that's going to one-shot bosses for you, but it is something that's very considerable damage, especially if you have something like the rest of the setup to back it up. It's not something I ever want to rely on as my entire build, but it's something that's fun to run. And then if you do manage to get something that either scales up your tactic damage, or the best buff for it is you get extra damage based on your exchange points, and then you just never spend your exchange points again after you got your main build set up. You can get ridiculously high damage modifiers that way, and you can push this type of build to the point of where it will one-shot. But it's more of a gimmicky thing. I wanted to mention that because there has been a video floating around of someone one-shotting with this, and people tend to just see the one-shot and not understand all of the bonus things that goes into it. So I wanted to explain how that works. And then another thing, real quick, is another source of utility for these spawnable objects that you wouldn't think of is that you can see here it also sets off my chain reaction effect for me. So even if an enemy is not near me, and then also this chain reaction effect will scale off of how many enemies it hits. So if it hits 3 enemies at once, it'll spawn 3 thunderbolts and 3 spears and 3 light waves. So it's also something that buffs this type of build pretty heavily. One thing I've seen people talk about is that Bullet's Legacy, which we'll skip ahead to so I can show. People think it's pretty useless, and I think in a lot of cases that is correct, because you spawn a throwable that can be grabbed, but grabs are very rare on other characters, and then the passive is also based off of grabbing, so a lot of characters can't really make use of her as a legacy, but there are some weird niche cases where having this extra grabbable that can be attacked can be useful. Something like shadow chains can be applied to these and attacked, so that's another case where you might want to think about using them, but it's something just to give you an idea of what to do with them, since a lot of people are confused about them right now. That's something I'll have to test out more myself, too. Anyways, this video has been going on for more than long enough, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.